Hi, my name is Dr. Brianna Willie. I'm a therapist and I run a private practice. I'm diversifying my income with building a coaching business, blogging, podcasting, and course creating. I get to create in my work while building a business I love, and I inspire others to create and build businesses they love too. Are you interested in being more authentic in your business? And do you want to step more into enjoying your work? Do you need help with setting better business boundaries? Do you like to nerd out about something? Or are you interested in growing beyond your current business and diversifying your income streams? Well, check out my podcast and blog for business building tips and strategies on substack.com at Dr. Brianna Willie.
Business for nerds because I'm a nerd and I enjoy and love sci-fi, video games, reading fantasy, and I'm now writing a steampunk novella. I also love to talk about all things business. And as I'm learning, I try to grow and collaborate with other business owners. So, welcome, business nerds. I'm interviewing entrepreneurs so we can mutually support each other in business and grow together. And today I'm talking with Jake Anderson with Gravity Web Studio. It's so great to have you on the show, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing great, Brianna. Thank you so much for having me. And I heard that you were into, I think you said a steampunk novel.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah,
right? So can I tell you a quick story about steampunks just to get really nerdy for a minute?
sure.
So I was a couple years ago was part of this community. It was actually a Web3 thing, but it was all built on comic book characters and heroes, like kind of like a heroes like anyway, it was this big like thing with all these different heroes. There was villains, and then there was heroes, and they had different types of like angels and demons, and they had steampunks and like all these different types of heroes. And I was the co-captain of the steampunks. So the steampunks was actually like my whole crew, and you got the right stories about your characters and like the different things that, and you collaborated with other co-captains. Anyway, very nerdy stuff,
Cool.
but
hmm
the steampunks, he said, is like, oh, I got such a connection with steampunks from that experience. So I thought it was
Oh,
interesting.
that's super cool
Yeah.
and super nerdy. And is there anything else? What else do you nerd out about?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you the thing recently I've been nerding out about a lot that's been also very productive is I know it's such a buzzword, but I've really gotten pretty deeper into AI, but more
hmm
specifically, so it's like you got ChatGPT and it's like, I've always loosely used it, ever since it came out. It's like, okay, sometimes I'll need it to maybe help me generate some outlines or maybe help write a headline here or there, some little things. But I had watched it. There was a YouTube video I saw because I was wanting to learn more about how to use AI as a writing tool, just to kind of co-pilot with. And it was talking about, you got ChatGPT and you got Claude. And Claude is like really good, to my understanding, for like giving more of a human element to the voice. But they were saying that like ChatGPT is great if you need like kind of like little personal assistants, essentially, is what is the way to describe it, because you can build these GPTs and you can customize your own GPTs. And I was like,
Oh,
man, I really could use some personal assistance in my life. So I'm going to really dive into this.
plural.
So I started creating these GPTs, and I've got one that's like, it is my personal assistant. It keeps track of all my notes and my to-dos. And like, I will leave voicemails notes to it when I have an idea, and it reminds me when I need to recall stuff. I've got another GPT that is doing a time study right now. So like after this interview, I'll send it a note, say, hey, I just spent 45 minutes on a podcast, and it tracks it, it logs it, and at the end of the week it'll do an analysis and tell me like where all my time went, so I can see if there's any gaps there. I got another GPT that's helping me with some business processes. Like I'd go through like, I'm sure we'll talk about the website design stuff, but like I spend a lot of time in strategy and messaging. Like on the website side, it's not just design and development, but like
Right.
through that, I've been able to find ways to incorporate some GPTs into how I'm building out messaging strategies and like turning those client briefs into something more usable that can then be translated into the copywriting. So it's like, it's now, I was telling my wife, I was like, I want a GPT for like everything in my life that I can use to help track, measure, analyze, and provide feedback on things that are, that I, everything from finances to my health to just personal to day-to-days. So this has just been like in the past week, and I'm telling you, like my ability to get focused and be productive and keep all the balls that we're trying to juggle in the air straight just by using ChatGPT as almost like AI virtual assistants. And it's been really, really helpful. So I'm really nerding out right now over some AI stuff.
Whoa. Oh my goodness, mind blown. I don't know if you saw my recent article or blog about beautiful neurodivergent. So I'm neurodivergent and juggling balls in the air. Oh my goodness, I struggle with that. And then side, quests, I keep getting, pulled in all those directions. So I would totally love to create little GPTs. But my question is, because I would love to talk about this, does that cost a lot of money? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about how to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So I pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT, and
not bad.
it's $20. I don't know if you could do it on the free plan or not. I would check and see first. I'm okay paying $20 a month to have this level of functionality in my life. It's like worth it times 100.
Yeah.
1,000 even. And so anyways, as far as cost, it's like immaterial. It's, $20 a month if you just want to get the paid subscription.
Yeah.
As far as how to do it, if you pull up ChatGPT, and actually while we're talking, I'm just going to have it in front of my face just so I'm referencing the right navigation here. So, okay, so if you pull up, like if you have ChatGPT and you look in the top left corner, you'll see it's like a cluster of 4 little circles, and it says Explore GPTs. And if you click that, it'll bring up another screen where you'll see another button in the top right that says Create. And now a GPT is kind of like your own little version of ChatGPT, and it's trained to do a specific thing, right? It's like, so when you set it up, it'll ask you, it's like, what do you want me to be in your life or your business or whatever, right? So I actually have one for podcasts that I use for like podcast preparation that I would use. I would just use it to write introductions for my guests, and I would just it like knows what I want to do. So I would feed it the instructions. Now it'd say, hey, I'm having a podcast with Brianna, and here's her bio. Can you write my introduction for her? And I've actually had a couple people now like say to me like, wow, like that was such a great introduction. Like, have no idea, but it was all AI. Like, I'm not going to say it in a minute, but it was not me. I just fed it to my GPT and it produced this introduction. So, anyway, like whatever the thing, like you want to create, it's like this, you got to give it a queen bee role, right? So it's like your queen bee role is going to be to help me prepare for a podcast. I've got one that's just literally like its name is personal assistant. Like, and that's what it does. It's like I get up in the morning, I let it know what my goals are for the day, ideas I have, challenges I'm dealing with. And really what it's doing is it's just like, okay, like I understand what you're going through, and I want to make sure that we're keeping all this organized. It creates like a Canvas doc, so it always updates it anytime I feed it or ideas that come up to me. And I just feed it that. That's all it does. It's just like a personal assistant. It keeps all the chaos organized in my life, as far as notes and but I'm still exploring things. The next thing I'm looking at is a way to kind of use it for content creation, because that's always like a big one. Like I always fall short on staying consistent, like posting on social media and all that stuff, because I'll get busy and it's like, I don't know what to say today, but if I could just create a GPT that just knows what I'm doing all the time, I know it sounds kind of creepy, but like, it just, it knows what I'm doing. It knows the kind of stuff I'm involved in. I can even
stalker.
Yeah, it's just like, right. It's like, here's a transcript of a conversation I just had. Like, there's got to be some good content out of this. Like, can you figure out some stuff that I can talk about? And it's not like it's not me, because it is me. It's my conversations. It's my life. It's the things I'm going through. But it's helping me like organize that information and present it to me in a way where it's like, great, I've got some content. I can easily riff on these 5 things on a post, or, so it just helps with, it's a sidekick. That's really what it is. It's not a replacement on anything. It's there to kind of be your sidekick and helping you get through your day to day. And so whatever thing you're going through, that's just like, gosh, if I could just make this easier, we'll build a GPT and let it be your little AI assistant that you can feed it, information. The time tracking is really helpful. That's actually going to be, because that's invaluable thing. That's invaluable to know. Like, where's my time going and where is it being utilized best?
Yes.
Where is it being wasted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's
Wow.
really easy to set up. You just tell it, like, speak to it like you would a person. Like, this is what I
Yeah.
want you to do. And it's smart. It's very smart, actually. It knows. It's like, okay, like, this is what we're going to do then. And then just use me, like, when you got something, like I got a health tracker. So like every time I eat something, I'll just say, hey, I just ate 4 eggs. So I got it. Like, I'm going to track your calories and make sure that you're eating, and if you start getting off track, I'm going to let you know that, hey, like, keep doing this. You're going to start gaining weight again,
Wow.
and whatever, any of the things that you need for just health tracking even. So grocery list, figuring out meals for the week. I'm using it for
Oh,
that. Figuring out dinners,
whoa.
building recipes, based on the kind of diet I want to have. If you're, trying to be more of like a clean eater, like eat more clean food that's free of preservatives, it'll pull recipes for you, based on that, and then build out a grocery list that you can just upload and then take to the
Yeah.
store. So, yeah.
Wow. It's like a life coach in a way too, like a health coach almost.
Yeah, it's like, it does try to provide like some, like, it's very like, it kind of tries to inspire you a little bit through the way, but it's
Hmm.
excuse me, I would say probably I almost feel like assistant is like the best word for it. Like, it's really good at assisting you, because that's where,
Hmm.
like, I've been through a health journey, and the times where I really started to fall short was when I just lost focus and I lost time. And it's like, if I could just have something to like build my grocery list so I don't like have to think about it, because
Yeah.
it's a lot to think about, like finding meals and recipes. And then you got to go to the grocery store and hunt around for all the ingredients. And it's like, I don't got time
Hmm.
to think about all that stuff. I mean, so it
Yeah.
helps with that kind of thing. Really, it's really good at that.
Wow. I
Yeah.
am totally going to nerd out after this about all of this. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That
Yeah.
is so awesome. I love it. Yes. Like I could go on a whole thing with that, but
Yeah.
to keep it on also your business, can
Sure.
you tell us about, well, I love the name Gravity Web Studio. That's so
Hmm.
neat. How did you think of that, or what does that mean?
So there's actually, if you go to my website, I'll give you some backstory to like how I got into website design, because I have a tendency to start businesses on accident. That's
Hmm.
been like my last. I used to own an event lighting design company for 10 years. That was like my first company. That one started by accident. The website design
Yeah.
stuff started by accident. And what I mean by that is, um, and I'll tell all the story into like where gravity came from, because it all does. Even like gravity's actually came from like a lunch I had back in 2013 when I had started my
Mhm.
lighting business, around the time I was starting that company.
Yeah.
That it was a piece of advice I got that was a business philosophy that had stuck with me and really propelled a lot of success in my life through the first company. And just kind of like how I think about marketing in general, and just how in terms of the way to approach marketing. But before I get into that, I'll say, like, starting a business on accident, what does that mean? Probably is a good
Right.
question to think about. So what has worked really well for me as far as
Mhm.
getting into a business and starting any kind of endeavor is to just put myself into a market and just be useful where I can, like, not overthink. I'm very much a ready, fire, aim kind of person. Um, and I don't know if that's like the right or wrong way to do it. It's just what's worked for me. So like with
Mhm.
my lighting company, I didn't even know lighting for events was even a thing. And, I was trying to do DJing and book bands, and some venue said, hey, like, I know you know production. Can you help us do lighting for our venue? I was like, I wouldn't have any success with DJing and band booking, by the way. So I was like,
Aw.
I'll take whatever I can. I'm just trying to find a way to be useful. And
So
then,
creative though. You must be creative.
yeah, it definitely, I mean, it's a design application. And so it's, but anyway, to make a long story short, that I just answered the call, went and did the work. That turned into a referral to somebody else. Then that turned into a referral. Next thing you know, after a couple of years, I had 18 employees and a warehouse full of lighting and the whole business. And we were fleet of trucks and like the whole thing, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. And then it's like,
Pretty
oh, like,
good for an accident,
yeah.
accidental business.
Well, what works with it is the feedback loop. Like you understand really, like we can oftentimes get caught in our own heads about like ideas and stuff, right? It's like I really want to do this, but I guess it's like the question you ask yourself, like, well, how much evidence is there to prove that this is an idea that people want or that is going to solve a problem that people want? So it's like when I had that lighting company, it's like I was trying to like sell entertainment, which is a desire. That's something that people want for their events. Like people like entertainment bands. I mean, music is huge for an event. But there was already like those needs were already being met in the market, but where lighting was there was a gap there. And it was like, we can't really find anybody that does this well. And that is, most people are doing it as like an afterthought, but it's like lighting touches everything in the room. So we need somebody that is going to handle it with care and be professional about it. And that was the gap. I was like, okay, I'll be that guy. And that's why it grew, because it was actually, I specialized in it. And when I specialized in it, the company doubled every year for the first 4 years. And it was just through that specialization. And so with like the website design and it was the same thing. I've always been involved in tech and design, to some level. I've worked on software projects, graphic design, just building websites. So much with tech. You hear me like over here nerding out about these AI GPTs, here's just another example of it. And I was co-hosting a podcast in 2022, and I built the website for the podcast. And one of the guests commented on it and said, "Hey, like this looks great. Like, can you help me with mine?" I was like, "Okay." Same thing, right? Just repeated the story. Just showed up in a market and just was being useful. There was a community I was trying to really embrace, and it led to a client. And then that client led to another client, then another client. And then next thing you know, here's this like new endeavor that you're now working within, and you're just building your skill set. And so that's kind of how I got involved in it. And to answer your question about gravity and like how the name Gravity came to be, was going back to the lighting business in 2013. I was still pretty new. Like I had already kind of found some traction, but I didn't really know what I was doing. It was like my first company, and like marketing was just not, it was way over my head, and I was not doing it right. I was trying to push in the market, and just wasn't getting anywhere. Eventually I realized there was a big constraint that I had, that I recognized with my lighting business. I had a partner, and that was the branding was like really off. Like it was just like I had a partner, and he was into big concerts and stuff, and I was trying to operate this under a brand that was like all about concert production. And it was to a point where I actually had venue managers coming up to me and saying, "Hey, like this is kind of weird to say. We love working with you, but we're embarrassed to refer your business because of how bad it looks with your website and your brand and everything." And it's like, I was like, "Oh no, I know it's bad. I know it hasn't been updated since 1981, and I get it." And so I sought out the owner of this branding firm, and it was one of the biggest investments I had ever made in my business. And the guy who owned it was just like highly sought after. He had a line out the door of clients, just, kind of like somebody you would admire in business, like, wow, this guy just got it going on. Like he's got all these clients, and everywhere you go, they talk about this company. And so I ended up hiring him, and we were having lunch. And on my website, by the way, I tell this whole story. Like if you go to gravitywebstudio.com and you click on, I think Gravity's like the name. If you scroll down a little bit, it's called like Pull, Don't Push, like my greatest lesson in marketing. It was from this lunch I had with this guy. His name was Adam. This is when I had my lighting business. Yeah. And we were sitting down, and I was just like, I didn't know. I was like, Adam, was like, you're in branding and marketing. I was like, I got to ask you, like, what do you do to market your business? because obviously you're doing something right. And he kind of smiled, and honestly, he's like, I don't do anything. Like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he's like, my whole thing is my thought is I want to build a brand that's just so strong that it just pulls people to me. And then I don't have to go around and push my brand everywhere in everybody's face. It just pulls people right to me. He's like, that's why he's like, we have so much business right now coming inbound just through word of mouth and referrals and people seeking us out, that if we were to go and spend money and time on actual advertising, all we're doing is just attracting people that we're going to say no to, because we don't have the capacity to even deal with the inbound and referrals.
Wow.
He says, but the reason I hired him was because the customer experience was so amazing. And I paid way more than I wanted to, but when we were done with the project, my business had an immediate 400% increase in leads, just immediate, because I removed the constraint. So that's kind of where gravity comes from. It's this like concept of like pull, don't push. It's like, it's how you position yourself to attract opportunities. And it's the way it's a way of showing up. It's a way of serving. I'm really big into the customer experience. Like, I don't do much advertising. All my business, even ever since the lighting business, has always been word of mouth. I don't chase leads around town. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Like, it's just not my style. And it's just ever since that lunch, it's like, this is how I'm going to run my business. And people can choose to work with me if they want to. But my focus is more on creating the best experience I possibly can for the service that I offer, and trying to be as different as possible. I'm like really fanatical about differentiation within a marketplace, and because that plays a big role into it as well. So Gravity in marketing, it's like it is a marketing company. We're doing web design. This is part of your marketing. So, that's one of our core tenets of how we think about marketing is through Gravity and pulling in and attracting those opportunities to you.
That's so good. And I feel like my own business is working more with, Substack and my websites. I recently wrote on that, what was it, the marketing spiral or resisting the marketing spiral? I can't even remember the name of my own post, but I was talking about that these are the central areas where people interact with us, our websites, and Substack now. I've only been on there since May, but it's been, that's where we connect. That's where we build relationships.
Right.
And the website is real estate we own online. And it's so
100%.
invaluable to make it, welcoming. I'm still even working on mine, but, so really important stuff right here. Do you have any tips for people who maybe can't afford, hiring someone right now, but maybe some just things that work sometimes to help build up what they have? Maybe they have a page or two. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I always, I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a guy who was asking me about building a website, and I'll always be the first one. Like, if I feel like it's not the right step, like, I'll be the first to tell you that it's not the right step. And it was one of those conversations where I was like, he was kind of getting started in his business. I was like, there's things that you can do just to get something up, and because right now it's more about testing messaging and really pulling together. Like, it's going to be volatile, because you're getting something started and you're testing out the market and you're trying to figure out what lands for people, what offers land for people, what messaging lands for people. And the worst thing you could do right now is go and invest a ton of money in paying somebody to build a website for you, when like 3 months later, like, everything is going to change. So that's you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
so
you have to find your voice.
Exactly. So there's a sequence that you have to be mindful about when you're building this out. And so you don't waste resources, because you can. And I will raise my hand. I have wasted some resources building websites and building stuff online in business that, so I have a pretty strong conviction around this as far as the sequence and how it needs to come together. So to your question, it's like understanding that being understood, there are platforms out there that make it very simple to just build on. Like, they're drag and drop, they're no code. Do you need some technical skill. Yeah, like and you probably should build, in my opinion, I think that's a skill you should build anyway, just because it's the world we live in now. We had there's like two parallels running. There's the physical world and the real world where we all interact in the real world, but then you got this whole digital world that's happening, and they intersect, but they're running next to each other. And if you don't have technical skills, like it's going to be, I think it's like kind of hard to operate in this day and time if you don't have technical skills. So there is a platform that I am transitioning to. I used to build, and I still have some sites built on Webflow. Webflow is a great platform. You can really do some amazing work. The issue with it is that I have to have a developer involved with all the builds and designs. And he still works with me. He's been with me since the beginning. And it's like where that gives you more flexibility and in which you can create. I still didn't like that I needed to rely that much on a developer to build sites. So I'm now moving over. It's a new platform, and I'm not even sure if it's an offer I'm going to put out or not yet. But it's kind of like, because I do get those people who come to me and I'm like, you're not ready to dump thousands of dollars into a website design. It's just not the time. But if I had a platform that people could build on where, I don't know, it's like, here's a platform, it's very cost effective, it allows you to kind of get something created, it's drag and drop, but it also is expansive. Like you can do advanced stuff too if you want on it. So it can be very simple, it can be very advanced, it can kind of scale with you. Is kind of where it's something I'm looking into right now. And there's a platform. I mean, it's kind of past looking into. Like I've already found it. I'm going to start building sites on it. The thing I'm looking into is, is there a solution that makes sense for people who are at that stage where it's more economical for that kind of 0 to 1, or even like 1 to 2 or 3, where it's like there's still some iteration that needs to happen before we're ready to commit more resources to it. Thinking about ways to maybe to build on that platform in a way that can kind of serve those people that are in that stage. And so to kind of answer your question, it's like, support technology, and technology, a web builder platform that allows you to be flexible. And, I'm somebody like, I don't build websites, but I can get in here and I can put together some pages and a structure. And then maybe my involvement isn't necessarily doing the work for you, but I'm kind of there to look over your shoulder and like, hey, here's ways to approach messaging and structure and strategy. And, and that's like, for me personally, as a website designer, that's the thing that's distinct about me, is that I help people mostly with strategy and messaging. That's where a lot of web designers don't do that. They're like, you give me what you want, I'll build it for you, but like, you got to figure it out. Where I actually will get in the trench and help you figure out strategy and build messaging. So that's the big distinction between me and other website designers. And because people
they
will spend
build
themselves
it. You help with the actual messaging piece, which is kind of like branding. And I saw you listed copywriting. It's like how we get the word out about what we do, what we're saying to our ideal client or not. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, it's like, so when you build a website, you can have a really nice looking website, but if the messaging's off, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to serve you. So it's like, what are we actually saying on the site, and where are we saying it? What's the flow? What's the experience that somebody has? And that requires a bit of strategy and work on how that all needs to come together. And then once that's come together, now we can actually build the website. Now we know what we're going to say. Here's the copy. Here's the underlying message that we're trying to speak to and who we're trying to speak to. And then that all comes together into a website that is where when somebody lands on it, it's speaking directly to them, and it takes them through, through a journey that is pleasant and inspiring, and moves them to a state of action. Like that's what we want to have happen is when people interact with it, it actually creates action. So that's kind of like really more where, going back to nerding out, it's like there's the tech and design piece of it, but the most challenging part of the whole build is getting the messaging and strategy down. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the very first step is just getting that down. So
Wow. Yeah, I feel like I'm learning a lot about this because I feel like we put on our website pieces of data, but do they lead people somewhere? This is kind of helping me think about that. And I bet others are thinking about this too, like, okay, what is my strategy? Do I have a strategy?
yeah.
So, yeah. So how can you help people? So someone reaches out to you probably through your website and they don't know what they're doing. How would you help them? They're trying to they're trying to start their business, get their messaging out there, trying to market a little bit. So what would you do or how would you help them?
So it depends on where they're at. And I had kind of like spoke about a prior story. So it depends on where somebody's at in their journey. If you're in startup, my initial because I was talking this and I'll kind of use him as I like to use examples because I feel like it helps add color to like
Yes,
what
I
we're
need
referring to.
those
Yeah,
neurodivergent, need examples.
yeah,
Thank you.
yes. And
Hmm.
so in this example, I have there's this guy. He has a coaching program. He does, and it's a little bit more than coaching. It's more of like a consulting thing that he does. But he
Hmm.
hasn't really like brought it to market, and it's something he's been doing like just with a handful of people. And he was asking me about it. My question is like, I need to know like how clear are you on all your messaging, and like have you worked with clients, and where's the reality at the moment. And because if you haven't worked with any clients yet, the first step is you need to go work with some clients. And if you need to have a website, because sometimes in some businesses like you kind of have to have a website like
Yeah,
for a client to even consider even working with you. It depends on your business, depends on what you're doing. And if
right.
that's the case, then there are ways to spin something up that is, and it depends on resources too. It's like, hey, if you want me to build it for you, I will. I'm happy to bring you on as a client. I'll take you through my process, which is, the first step is really going through all the strategy. So on board, we'll go through a brief, a kickoff call. We'll work through all the strategy, get the messaging figured out. And then from there, I start building out all the copy. And then all the design is built around the messaging. So it's like we don't design stuff first. We write all the copy and figure out what we need to say first. And then we build the design.
Oh,
So
that's
it's kind of,
smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the most important part of the whole website is what you say. You can take
Yeah.
you can have, if you've got a really compelling offer to the right audience, it can be just a white screen with black text that says the offer and a button to buy, and people will probably buy it if it's a good enough offer. But you
Probably
can have
better than some things where you're all distracted by all these pictures and all these,
yeah,
buttons and better to be
exactly.
simple sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I've found, I'm going through a lot of transition right now, like even with my business, as far as how I want to kind of my offerings and kind of where I want to help people and how I want to help people. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is it's just meeting a market need and finding a good product market fit. And so for like people that are kind of in that 0 to 1 stage, I do think that there is something um, that I could create that could be helpful to them, where probably more of a done with you, type of a service where it's like, hey, you're not all, hey, I'm not going to, you're not by yourself here. Let me get you on the platform. This is the same platform that I build on. It's not too advanced to where um, you can't do you can do the work yourself, but you just have to have some technical know-how. But I'm going to provide you guidance in terms of process and strategy on how to build this out for your business, at
Yeah.
least to where it's at now. And then if you've got more time than money, then that might make sense for you. But
Yeah.
I do have clients that are getting started and they're like, I've got plenty of money, but I don't have a lot of time. And I would rather just pay you to do it. That's fine too. We can take that path if you want to take that path. So it's kind of figuring
Sure.
out the balance between, the people who are, like money, like, because there's all these different currencies. There's like money and energy and time. And it's like, which one do you have the most abundance of? Because you can use that to kind of put towards your endeavor. So if you've got a lot of time, but not a lot of money, then build it yourself and I'll work with you. And it's a lot more affordable on the money side. But if you got a lot more money, but maybe not as much time or energy, then you can take that money and use that as your resource and currency to get what you need off the ground. So, so thinking about it in terms of the exchange of the different currencies, depending on where people are. But it is hard. Like, it's the only thing I'll say that's really tough. When somebody hasn't started, when somebody's like just getting started and they haven't actually had a client yet, those are like the hardest clients for me. And I'm not sure, I need it's like, I don't even like, do I like, this is like the crossroads I'm at right now. It's like, do I create an offer that can serve them in a way that's meaningful, or do I have something that is more, the done for you is really tough because it's like you haven't actually like made any sales yet. You don't have any feedback yet from clients right now.
Right.
So, and I need that feedback to understand messaging and strategy. So what we're going to do is guess as to what this is supposed to look like.
Right. And it's a test, and maybe if you like explain that you're going to need time to test this out, to even make this work for you, and just being, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying,
it's good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. That, and I feel like Scott tells me that. So Scott's my coach. And I had, I'd started my business, I had my other business, and I knew how to start and build businesses, but this one was hard because it was so different. And he said a similar thing, like, it's hard when you're just starting out, even though you know how to build a business. This one's different. We need to collect data right now. We need to try things and see what happens, like that close the gap thing, where are you? Where do you want to be? Well, if you don't even know where you are, how are you going to get where you want to be? So I had to figure out that next smallest step to work through the constraint, which I didn't even know what the constraint was. But maybe if we're just real with people, like, we don't know yet. We can't promise you.
Yeah.
We got to try things, but you just need a website. Let's start there. You need something, like, you're a coach, you provide coaching. All right. There you go, page.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of good templates out there. Like this platform I'm on, it's got templates for every section, and you can just go in very quickly and just build it up with templates and just replace the content. And that's what I did. That's a very simple way to spin something up, and update the colors, update the logo, update the typography so it matches your brand. Make sure all the links work.
Yes, that's a big one.
Make sure all the links work. That's a big one for sure. Connect the domain, and you're live. You got a website and your business is out there, and it doesn't need to be this but like I said, like, I kind of like leaning towards, like, I've got this platform. I can host people's sites right on it, give them access. But the beauty behind that is that it's really streamlined for me. Like, hey, if I need to jump in for any reason to do something, or throw you a life jacket or something because something broke, I can quickly step in there and, is there an offer that makes sense for that kind of person, that's just like getting started and they need to. So I'm kind of, if you have any advice or input on that, I'd love to hear it, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot as a solution for the people that are kind of in that stage and could use some extra support.
The toughest stage, like, and I feel like I'm noodling around that too. Like, how do you best help the people just starting, whether they have any experience or not, and maybe helping them look at, you have some experience, you've seen other businesses grow around you. What did you learn from that? Doing the market research. Okay, what are others putting on their websites? Okay, I want to be unique. but maybe there's like a similar vein we could all kind of put on there. Need a call to action, definitely. And I think some of
Yep.
them are missing that. It's like, well, how do I call you? You know,
Right.
is that even
Yeah.
on there?
I want to
I
give you
think
some money.
the simple stuff, like, I just want to
Yeah.
talk to you. How do I talk to you? So I
Yep.
think we build all these beautiful websites, but we forget that part. How are
Yep.
people going to get to know you? And that's what I'm focusing on right now. Like, need the virtual real estate, but I need to be approachable too. So how
Let
do
me
I build that?
let
Go
me
ahead.
give you or just kind of give one little piece of it, because this is something I see show up as a problem probably more often than not with web design.
Hmm.
Um, is that you got to understand the intent that somebody has when they're visiting your website, whatever the page is. So if it's like the homepage, okay, why is
Hmm.
somebody here and what are they thinking? And your
Hmm.
job with that web page is to match that intent and to provide clarity around whatever questions that they have in their head. And the biggest mistake I
Hmm.
see made in web design over and over again is that people try to solve for too many questions or too many pieces of intent at once. I
Hmm.
was on a call. I'll give you another example here. I was on a call with the guy and he was like, take a look at my website. Let me know what you think. And I'm like, I hate I don't want to criticize somebody's website. Like it's like I don't know. It's just kind of weird for me to do. But I was
It's
like, how
hard.
do it's like trying to be really like I don't want to be like, oh, this is terrible.
It's
Uh,
awful.
it was terrible. Like don't I'm trying to be very soft about it. But
Sure.
but
Constructive.
the thing that stood out to me, I was like, so I'm looking like the first thing I see in your hero section, it's like the first thing that you see above the fold on your homepage. There was 5 different calls to actions. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
You're asking me to call you. You're asking me to fill out a form. You're asking me to get a free book. You're asking me to do all these things. I'm so confused now as to what my next step needs to be that like I just
I
don't
love
know.
that.
And it was like, and they were all kind of like in like my eyes like shooting around the screen. And so I was just like,
Yeah.
it's just too. There's too many. That's what I mean by like you're trying to match. It's like, hey, like I've got all these things, and like it's like what should be my like I'm brand new to your brand. I'm just here to like what's my next step? Like what's the next step I should be? And like how can you move me through a good streamlined process? And you don't need fancy design. Like that's the strategy piece I'm talking about. It's like how are
Yeah.
we like moving people, human centric. It's like this is a human being that's like interfacing with your brand here. And it's like, how can we move them through a journey that it makes sense and
Yeah.
gets them to where you want them to be, that because you've laid the journey out, it's your business. It's like you've got this plan for this person on how to get them results. So how are we going to lead them to those results? And, in a way that is just, it's smooth and it's streamlined
Hmm.
um, and that's the kind of thing like I would just really encourage anybody if they're building their website to just don't feel like you've got to like throw everything in their face at once. Just like give
Yeah.
them like the next logical next step that you would want them to take. Have a clear goal of what you want them to accomplish when they visit your site. And don't
Wow.
feel like if you don't put everything out there that that you're somehow going to miss like an opportunity with them. It's like, well, it's not like that's not how that like it actually has the opposite effect. Like you actually lose the opportunity because you've confused them and they've left.
Right. Wow. That's just mind blown again. I think I'm going to totally rework everything because what I have are like 4 websites. I have my Substack. I have system.io where you can build funnels in. Now I have them kind of volleying or ping-ponging to each other depending on where people are going. But now I'm going to look at it from I am basically a video game character. And I am stepping through a portal into that world of the business.
Yep.
And if I'm blasted with all these things, I'm going to want to run away and be overwhelmed. I need to slowly reveal different pieces as the person, is drawn in, kind of like levels.
Yep.
If you're really interested in this, you're going to be
Yeah.
taken to that next level with more information and more, you know, and maybe meeting with me is going to be when I tell about all I do. Here's these
Really.
options. This is going to fit you better, instead of just blasting it all right on my website. You know, wow. Thank you.
A way to, yeah, for sure. And another way to think about it is, are you familiar with like the levels of awareness, like customer awareness? Have you heard of that?
I think so, but maybe
Okay.
start talking if you have
It's-
time. I know we're going
yeah,
over.
no, I'm
Um,
fine. As long as, are you okay on
I'm
time? Because I'm
fine.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
I'm good.
fine.
All right. So levels of awareness. This will help you like figure this out. Let me first start by defining the levels of awareness, customer awareness. So it's, you've got unaware, problem aware, product problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then most aware. So it's like a different, like it's a spectrum of awareness that people have. So think about it like this. Have you ever it's like when somebody's unaware, it's like they have a problem they don't even know about. It's like they don't
Mm,
even know they even have that problem, but they do, but they're just unaware of it. Mindset's probably the biggest one because a lot of people are like have problem. Like it's like you don't realize you're just getting in your own way. It's probably the most
mm.
unaware problem that people have, or like they're
Like
not aware of
coaching,
them.
so you
Yeah.
can see where you're unaware. But anyway, go ahead.
Yep. And it's like, well, like, have you ever like consumed a piece of content and all of a sudden it just like unlocks something inside? You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm dealing with that. And I didn't realize that that was actually the problem.
That just
Like,
happened to me.
yeah. So it's like,
Anyway.
okay, well, that's messaging. Like if you've got a service that really like where your target client is typically just very unaware, then your website and everything, like if that's the first interaction, like the job is to raise their awareness to understand the problem that they actually have. So
Ah,
like, so if you're trying to throw a bunch of solutions out, they're gonna be like, I don't even know what the problem is you're trying to solve for. So you have to understand like the level of awareness that person is when they interface
that's
and
so good.
where they're at. So then you have like I do website design. Website design is very much like I have a highly solution aware market for the most part. Like people know like what a website is. They understand that that's a solution to it's part of their business's online presence. It's important. Like you gotta like I don't need to explain to you. Like I don't have to go and do a lot of work, which I personally like do very well in like solution aware markets. And I just know that about
Yeah.
myself because it's like, not that not that you couldn't do well in like problem aware and unaware, but it's just, it takes more work and nurturing because you have to like educate people and like, hey, if your shoulder feels like this, then you probably got a torn, whatever. It's like, I don't know what these things are in health, but you know what I mean? Like, or
Right.
your something doesn't feel right in your back. It's like, it's the problem is that you're sitting in a chair wrong or something, and because that always leads to this type of back pain. And oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, how do I fix that? Oh, well, you need to go see a physical therapist. Oh, so
Right.
physical therapist. Well, what do they do? It's like, well, that's, and then there's like probably some slings or things that you got to use to be able to fix your back, or maybe you need surgery. And then, so that's kind of like we're in solution aware or even product aware. It's like, I know that these specific products can help solve the problem for me. And then most
Mm-hmm.
aware is when you actually have like, those are like your typically like most aware is going to be like people who you've already done business with. Like they're already aware of you, like they know what you do, they know your product. And for those people, like all you need is just like, here's a checkout page, just like you already know what this is all about. You just need to know where to click buy and
Mm,
go through the buying process.
yeah.
So
Yes. Okay. And that's why with my other business, people were already problem aware in counseling. They know they need counseling, so they go to my website,
yep,
reach out, oh, I wanted EMDR, reaching out to you. But with coaching, it's so much different. Where am I at on the level of
yeah,
building my business?
yep,
Where do I need help? Where am I where's my constraint? So that makes
yep,
so much more sense that maybe some of the people going to my website are unaware they need help. They're looking around, but they're not sure about what they need help with. But then
yeah.
some know they need coaching. So that's really cool. I'm definitely going to noodle on that. And I'm sure by those that follow and listen will be probably intrigued with this too. I mean, this is fascinating. There's like a psychology to
Yeah.
building a website.
The way I see it is part of marketing, and that is marketing. Marketing is just all human psychology, and I don't have any training in psychology for the record.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
understanding human behavior, and and how people, paying really close attention to how, there's a lot of good, like the levels of customer awareness is a good framework, to,
I
to,
like
to,
that.
to use in kind of your strategy. And but yeah, you're spot on, and that's where like it's coaching models can be tough because of that unawareness that people, a lot of people don't even realize, like, what do you mean I need a coach? Like, coach for what? Like, I'm not really sure what this is like. And then, so but when people eventually, like, they'll raise their awareness or like, no, I really do have a problem. And it's like, I understand what the problem is, but I also know that a coach is the solution to fixing this. And so those are the people who are like most ready to buy. And they just need to know, what's the path I need to take to buy. So thinking through like a coaching website, I would put more emphasis on like, because I'm working on one right now for it's a fitness brand, but it's a lot of, it's coaching, but it's also like ties in a lot of the fitness piece. And a lot of the copy and messaging is really centered around kind of like the mindset piece and value system and like how we think and like the type of like it's more focused on men. So it's like men that are over 40 or like around 35 to 40 that are kind of in that age, which is a very different man than like a 20-year-old man, that's like they're living in completely different worlds and completely different mindsets. And
Their time is different,
Yeah.
how much free time they may have.
They got kids going, family, they're thinking very differently about life. And they probably have made some mistakes in their 20s and 30s that they're, that it's probably, they're probably paying the debt on at 40. And they're like, man, I need to make a change. And, with my health and the way that I'm taking care of myself and the way that I show up every day. So it's like all the messaging's around like that, it's like the fitness is part of it, but it's more about like stepping into this greater version of yourself and being able to remove yourself from all the distractions and lifestyles and things that you've always been accustomed to over the years that's like led to some health challenges that you might be dealing with. And
it's behavioral.
Yeah, very much behavioral. But it's tough. It's a challenging thing because you're trying to shift behavior and getting somebody to change their behavior is a really, really hard thing to do.
The stages of change is another piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not an easy
Which I
job.
think connects with the problem aware piece too. But wow, this is really, because I feel like I get stuck, because neurodivergent, I get stuck on this is the way it needs to be, and sometimes have difficulty seeing all the spectrum of options, in between. And I feel like you've opened a lot of that up for me to kind of think about and for all of us to think about. So I love that.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad that's the result, because I think the best conversations are the ones where somebody can kind of get you to like see like the other side of the sphere. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe if you look, it's like inverting the thinking a little bit. And at least for myself, I've always found so much value in having conversations that lead to that kind of outcome. So
I love it.
Cool.
Well, first, is there anything else you wanted to share about your business?
I mean, I can talk all day long about this stuff, So I had mentioned a thing. I really wanted to make sure it was mentioned about the levels of awareness and like how to think about the intent that people have when they're kind of where their frame of mind is when they are landing on your website. That's where I see the biggest mistakes made. I am in transition mode, just full disclosure. Just kind of like part of December, thinking about ways that I can optimize my own offerings. And like I said, like I started this business on accident. And I didn't have a website of my own actually for like the first like year and a half.
Wow. Wow.
So I know it sounds very unconventional. And the reason I did is because I was like, I'm not like, is this for something? But I just kept getting asked to build websites. And I was like, okay, I probably should do something with this. And
the best
And
kind of business. It started
yeah,
without you even having to put yourself out there. That's so great. I love it.
yeah, it was, well, I did, but it wasn't like in a way of like, it wasn't like publicly. It was like through like specific
Networking.
community and networking and which is
Hmm.
kind of like where I personally like to live. That's why I like podcasting. It's like, hey, let's just have a good conversation. And if somebody feels like this makes sense for them to connect with me, in business, then like by all means,
Yeah.
like let's have that conversation. But yeah, as far as anything else, I mean, I guess just like if somebody reaches out to me and wants assistance, I'm open minded. I would love to talk to anybody that is kind of in that 0 to 1, like starting out, and they're like, I want to, I do want to build a business, or I'm in this process of building a business, but I have to be very careful with resources. I'm in that startup mode and I need support, but I need something that makes sense for me at that time. And if I have enough interest in that, and if it's something that makes sense, I'm open to like putting together something, a program or something that makes sense for a person that's at that stage. And I know what that stage feels like very well. So I'm very like empathetic to that. And so if
Yeah.
anybody is like, has any questions or anything to that nature, reach out to me if I feel like there's enough interest, and maybe I'll create something for that type of person.
I will definitely think about you because as I mentor other therapists starting to build their own private practices and then those
Hmm.
diversifying income. But some of them don't know where to start with a website, and I don't have time to teach them how to use
Yeah.
Weebly or whatever, which I just only figured it out by dragging and dropping and whatever. When I come across people like that, I'll send them over. How do people reach out to you? Where should they go?
Yeah. I mean, well, you can go to my website. That's one place. Which actually that's going to be like back to when I was saying I was like I built this website because I was like, I need something, like I need a brand right now, because there I was getting referrals and like this is weird that I don't have a website and I'm like getting asked for website design work. So I built this website, but it's going to go like now that I'm like really intentional about growing Gravity Web Studio, and I've got it launched, and I got kind of that version 1 put out there. That's going to be going through some changes of its own for version 2. That'll probably be next quarter.
Neat.
But that's the best place to start if you'd like to reach out to me, or if just gravitywebstudio.com. You can also send me an email, just jake@gravitywebstudio.com. That also works. I'm on X, LinkedIn. If you feel like it's easier to send me a DM, I'm on Substack too. Still kind of getting my sea legs in Substack. Email is like the one area where I just don't spend as much time as I should.
I'm definitely going to be noodling about this, nerding out about all that you've talked about. Very neat. Um,
Sure.
so thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you, business nerds, for listening. And tune in next time.